Hey guys, let's talk about last night's episode of Scandal. And there was a lot of shakeup on this episode. We got some chess pieces moved around, and it was pretty great to watch. So, we kick off the episode, of course, with Sally and her husband. And guys, can I just say that the editing, the writing, everything about that opening sequence was amazing. Just as they were having their argument and the pacing of the way it was shot and it sort of not being in sync with the images we were seeing and hearing her voice and her husband arguing and then watching as she picks up the letter opener and stabs him in the back. It was brilliant. And I was on the edge of my seat. It just played out so well and it was just so good. So Sally has now killed her husband. She calls Cyrus and he brings in Charlie as well as, of course, Quinn to help clean up the mess. And Cyrus pretty much tells Sally, like, you're going to have to cover this up. You're going to have to act like he had a heart attack. And that's that. Like, we can't let anybody else know what's going on. I was kind of like, really? Isn't somebody going to do an autopsy? I mean, this is just, it was a little far fetched for me that nobody found out that they actually that he got murdered. Like, it was just too easy. Of course, until the end when we find out that the NSA has been clearly listening in on Sally's phone calls because they have her on tape confessing to Cyrus that she's done something horrible and she's killed her husband. So that was kind of crazy. And obviously that's going to play out in the next chapter of this season, which is going to come back. Oh my God, February 27th, people. That is way too long. So, on top of all this, we had Cyrus now having to deal with the fact that he put all of this in motion. He, used his husband, James, to flirt with Sally's husband, and one thing led to another. They hooked up, and this is now the end result. So, in the past, Cyrus, and he even admittedly said it, of course, in this episode, that he has done horrible things. He is basically like the devil. And that was sort of like the running theme in this episode is who is worse than who anybody else on this show because they're all pretty bad people. And Cyrus is like dealing with his consequences right now, and of course he doesn't want his husband to leave him. And we've seen in the past him have people get killed and use Charlie to kill people. But this was so close to him, and I guess that was why he had such a reaction. Because I was like, well, Cyrus, you've done this in the past, but because it was so closely tied to everybody, I have a feeling that is why he reacted the way he did. And he was brilliant. Guys, the acting on this show is so stellar. It's crazy. I mean, Sally, her performance in that opening sequence was amazing. Cyrus, throughout this entire episode, was amazing. And, of course, him and his husband have just, at this point, they've gotten to that point where now they're just pretty much using one another. Yes, maybe their marriage was once built on love, but Cyrus always says, you knew who I was when you met me and when you married me. So James has always known that Cyrus is not a good person, but he chose to overlook it because I guess he thought he would never do his evil trickery on him. And of course, it turns out that James is just as vulnerable to being used as anybody else. You know what I mean? So at the end, they're laying in bed, and of course, Cyrus is hoping and praying that he's not going to leave him. And he goes on this whole montage, like a monologue earlier on, and he's like, what's the next move? Are you going to leave me because I have better lawyers than you do? I can take our kid and I can do this and I can do that. And he is just, again, like just throwing everything at him. And then he's like, well, take some time to think about it, because he doesn't want him to go anywhere. But he's also like telling him, like, listen, you will lose everything if you go up against me. And then at the end, they're laying in bed. And of course, what does he want? He wants to be like Secretary of State or something like that. And I was just like, here we go. Like, these two are just using each other for personal gain. And I mean, James might as well benefit from having Cyrus, the evil doer, on his side. So there you go. Then, of course, we had President Fitzgerald Grant and Rowan, and the two of them locked in a room when it looked like it was about to be an interrogation scene, when really what it was Rowan ripping a strip off of Fitz. He eviscerated that man in that bunker, and it was awesome. I mean, I am a fan of Fitz, but everything that Rowan said was true. And him using Olivia as his exit strategy, as his way out of this nightmare that he's in, is kind of true. Do I believe that he loves Olivia? Yes, absolutely. Do I think that he gets more than he bargained for if he leaves with her? Absolutely. And Rowan calling him boy throughout this whole rant was perfection. I mean, it was literally him just tearing him apart. And every time he was like, "You are not suitable enough for my daughter. You are just a senator's son. You and your rich self, you haven't had to earn or work for anything in your life. Everything has been handed to you. And everything I've ever done, I've earned. I've done for, been like on my hands and knees and I've scrubbed it and da da da." And he just went to town on my man Fitz. And Fitz just sat there and took it. And it was so good to watch. Like, Emmy reel, please, because this performance was outstanding. And of course, at the end of his rant, he says to Fitz, like, "Look, you can cut the head off the snake, but another one will pop up in its place because you can't shut down B613 even if you want to." So of course, Fitz is pretty quiet in this whole ordeal. I mean, he was a little inappropriate when he was talking about how Olivia tastes and all this kind of stuff. Obviously, he was doing it to get a rise out of Rowan. But again, that was another example of Fitz being a boy in this situation and not being a man, because he was using like cheap shots to try to get a reaction out of Rowan. And, when he makes that comment to Fitz, obviously, whether he was planning to do this already, but he pretty much put his plan into place, which was to, of course, put Jake in control of B613. That's right, people. Jake is now command. Hello? What is that going to do to Jake? Because I have a feeling, I mean, yes, Rowan is bad. But, there comes that point where you can sit on one side and be like, the grass is always greener. And like, you think you can handle something better than anybody else can. But obviously now, Jake is probably going to have to be put into situations that he's not going to want to do, but he's going to have to do them anyway, just like Rowan was. So do I think that they're trying to soften up Rowan? No, but I do think that a lot of the things that he has done may not have been his own choice. It may have been just the directive of his job, and he could not, go against that. So it'll be interesting to see now the gray line that Jake has to walk. And earlier on in the episode, he went to Olivia, and I love that he confronted Olivia when she was like ordering Huck to find her father. And he said, "Look, you're now asking us to help your father when this man has tortured us. He's been like brutal to us. He's tried to kill us. Like, he's done all these horrific things to us. And we can't just be like, okay, we're going to do this for you and it's not going to create a problem." So when he was like, "You need to cut Huck some slack," I was like, "You go, Jake. You stand up for yourself," because sometimes Olivia can get a little bit bossy pants, and it's good that somebody can put her in her own place. So of course they have this moment when he says to her, he walks up to her and he kisses her, and then he says, "I'm leaving," and she's all like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm going, and I loved you, and this whole everything I've done, I loved you, and anything that happens from this point on, just remember that I loved you." And then he says, "I love you." So he walks out the door, and of course she's got this look on his face like, what is he talking about? Well, there you have it, guys. He is now command. He is going to be running the show. And obviously this is going to create an alliance between him and Fitz. Now, can we really trust Fitz in this situation? Like, is he doing this, one, because he wants to take Rowan out? Sure. But is he doing this so that he can put a wedge between Olivia and Jake? Probably. Let's face it, guys. Fitz is jelly of the relationship that Jake has with Olivia. And he should be, because a man in a suit, in uniform suit, too fun. Anyways, so we had that taken care of this episode, and that was a pretty good shock and awe moment, because I was like, I wasn't expecting that to happen. And before Rowan was released from his, capture from Fitz, Olivia shows up and she pretty much demands the truth. She's like, "I need to know if this and this and this happened." And of course, Rowan, in his stoic way, isn't revealing any information. And I love that he basically said to Fitz too, "Look, the information you want is above your pay grade. So don't even bother trying, because I'm not going to give you what you want to hear." So Olivia pretty much puts it all together, and she says, "Okay, the reason why you took my mom off the plane doesn't make sense. If there was a bomb on the plane, why would she have gotten on the plane?" And then of course the reveal is that Olivia's mom lied to Rowan and said that there was a bomb on the plane, and that is why he asked Fitz to shoot it down, killing the 329 people on board. I mean, that is just crazy. So she lied. All these innocent people were dead because they were assuming that this bomb was going to land in London and it was going to obviously explode there and it was going to kill tens of thousands of people, and that is why they ordered the plane shot down. I mean, I actually was like, whoa, that is some heavy stuff, Mama Pope. And that's not very nice. So, she's not nice, guys. I don't know. And of course, the plane landed in Hong Kong. She was not on board. Where is she? Oh, yeah, she's in DC, right where it all started. So she's not going anywhere. And clearly she has some unfinished business. And I mean, it was pretty cool to see. Then, of course, we had some Quinn stuff going on because that girl is all messed up now. She was going to go and kill Rowan, and that didn't work out. And apparently, Huck put a tracking device in her tooth after he extracted one of her teeth in the last episode. Gross. So she then takes like some wire and pops it out, and she's now off on her own. You know, Olivia, yells at Huck for torturing her. And he's like, look, I just did protocol. So don't be mad at me. I just did what you're supposed to do when you're trying to get information out of somebody. And so now, of course, Quinn is like on her own. So she comes back to Olivia, a Pope and Associates. And of course, Huck is like, deuces, kick rocks. You're no longer a gladiator. Beat it. And it's like, Huck, calm down. It's not like she did this. It's not like she betrayed Olivia on her own. Like, she was forced to do it. They were going to blackmail her with killing the guy that took her mom off the plane. So it's like, cut her a little bit of slack here. Like, I'm not full on enraged like Huck is for some reason. But he was like, yeah, beat it. Like, the only reason why you're alive right now is because of Olivia. He's like, I would have peeled your skin up. I would have killed. I was like, ooh, boy, Huck, you need a hug because you're kind of scary right now. So, of course, where does Quinn go? She heads back over to Charlie's place, and the two of them are not a good pair, guys. They're not a match made in heaven. And I love that he keeps calling her Robin, so it's kind of like they're like Robin Hood, you know what I mean? Or Batman and Robin, I should say. So I like that he keeps calling her Robin, and I think that's really cute. But I don't trust Charlie at all, and nor should she. And I know that a lot of people are like annoyed with Quinn this season, and they can't stand her, and they're like, ugh. I actually kind of like what they've done with her character. I like where Quinn came from. Like, she was just kind of like this, mousy little girl who didn't know what was going on. And now she's had this huge story arc where she's, transforming right in front of our eyes. And maybe she's not like the best, like, wannabe assassin, but I'm okay with that because, watching her get to this point has been, I like it. Like, did I think that it was all gonna blow up in her face? Absolutely. But I think that, at this point, she's a woman without a home, and she's going to whatever feels comfortable. So will she work for P613? Now that Jake's in charge, maybe it won't be so bad. Like, who knows? What her and Charlie are going to be up to is anybody's guess. So, again, guys, it was another good episode. And right before the episode ended, of course, David Rosen got a nice little surprise with the NSA leak of phone conversations. So now he's aware that Sally Langston has actually done this, and that's like, where is he gonna go from this point on? Like, what is he gonna do? And of course, we had some really great Melly scenes, and that girl, I'm telling you, Melly is just too much. The fact that her and Cyrus were like, ooh, this is great. The fact that her husband is dead and like we can use this now and we'll keep her on our ticket and all this blah, blah, blah. I was like, you two are so twisted and you're just so perfect for each other. It's just gross. So she was doing her thing. She was like kind of sticking the knife in Sally a little bit, telling her like, come on, you're part of our family, Sally. Like, and I was just like, oh, this is just all kinds of wrong. She's just twisting the knife. So crazy. We didn't really have much of Harrison, but does that shock anybody? I mean, I know we got some hints of things that are going to come up for him, which is good. So I'm hoping that will play off in the last 8 episodes. And everybody else was just, kicking butt, staking names. It was good. It was a nice episode. Lots of good little bombs were dropped. And like I said, Olivia's mom is back in DC. She made a phone call to Olivia and was like, I'll see you real soon, baby. And I'm like, mama, she needs to go. And even Olivia's like, Mama needs to go. Arrest her the second she gets off that plane. And of course, didn't happen. So, Rowan and Olivia are supposed to have their Sunday night dinners, which I don't know if that's going to continue anymore because their last conversation was pretty much, yeah, goodbye and goodbye. So I don't think that they're going to be having any phone calls anytime soon. But guys, another really great episode. Again, we're not going to be back until February 27th. And in my last review, I said I was hoping and praying that they were not going to incorporate the fact that Kerry Washington is pregnant. And yay, the TV gods were listening to me because they are not going to do it. What they are doing, though, is they are making it only an 18 episode season instead of a 22. So they're chopping off 4 episodes for the latter half of the season. So we're only going to come back with 8 more episodes, guys. I mean, Shonda can do it because remember the first season I think was only 7 episodes and that was still pretty sick. So looking forward to when the show comes back in February. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I am just always on the edge of my seat with my glass of wine watching my Scandal. All right, guys, that's been it for me. I will see you February 27th when I talk about the next episode. Gosh. It's a long time from now. I hope you guys have a great holiday. Bye.